Are you deciding on who will be part of your bridal party? Should you try and include everyone? Maybe you want to keep it small and personal. This episode, we discuss the pros and cons of a large versus small bridal party.
You're listening to Tying the Knot, a podcast by Donna Weddings and Events, sharing the secrets you need to plan every detail of your wedding, celebration, or event.
Welcome to the Tying the Knot podcast. My name is Thomas, and I am here with the owner and lead coordinator of Donna Weddings and Events, Alana.
Hello.
This episode, we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of having a large bridal party versus small bridal party. We know there are benefits and downsides to both, that's for sure. First, I think we should definitely define what you, Alana, consider to be a small bridal party and what is the cutoff to then consider it a large bridal party.
A small bridal party is really 4 and under, and then a large bridal party I consider like anything over 7.
So we're in that middle area. We're about 5, 6, could be large or small.
Yeah, anything over 7 tends to start getting a little large, because if you have even numbers on, bride and groom side, you're talking a 14-person bridal party.
You also have to think of that as combined.
Right.
What are a few pros to having a large bridal party? I think we're going to start with.
So one of the big things is you don't need to exclude anyone. You don't have to hurt anyone's feelings. Some of my couples have a lot of siblings, and maybe their fiancés have a lot of siblings or family members that they want to include. And then everyone always has friends from high school and college, maybe work friends.
There's always a good amount of people that you think, if I include this person, I should really include this person.
Right. A lot of times, you can't choose one over the other.
Right. Which makes sense.
Right.
Because then you'll be hurting people's feelings.
Right.
But I think in that instance, too, you could think of the pro of a small bridal party where, you're only keeping it to maybe your siblings.
Right. And I think that's a decision that you have to, make with your fiance, your partner, the size of the party that you want, because you may choose to just keep it to family, or maybe that's even still too large. So you might have to keep it to just siblings.
Right. I know for us, when we were choosing bridal party, I have a lot of siblings.
Right. And I have no siblings.
Right. But you do have cousins who you consider siblings.
Right. So for me, it was easy because I just chose my 4 cousins who I'm closest with, and then I had your sister and your brother's fiance, who's now his wife.
Right.
So my 2 sister-in-laws. So it was easy for me.
And do you think that's important to include the sister-in-laws, the future sister-in-laws, the brother-in-laws?
For me, I definitely want it to include, my sister-in-law and my soon-to-be sister-in-law. I don't think that you need to include them if they're a girlfriend or boyfriend of a sibling. If they've been dating for several years, maybe that's something you want to consider. Maybe marriage isn't for them, and they've been in the family for years. But if it's a new relationship, or maybe 1 or 2 years, I don't feel like you need to include them. But for me, that wasn't the case.
Right. And I think for us, you obviously had cousins who were very close to you, and you included my sister and our future sister-in-law. I have brothers and friends who I consider family that we had to include. So we had not a large bridal party, but a good-sized bridal party.
Right. I think we were a little off. I had 5, and you had...
I had 6.
Yeah, I'm lying. I had 6.
No, we were even. We had 6 and 6.
Yeah, we did.
And that's always a plus,
right?
Having even couples.
Yes.
So the walking up and down the aisle is
and it doesn't
easier.
have to be even. You can double up. Don't feel like it has to be even if you really want to include somebody, but it's off. You can always double up, or there's always something you can do.
And we've seen that. We've had that in the weddings that we've done, where it's been 2 groomsmen and a bridesmaid.
Right.
So that's very acceptable. Don't worry about it. One of the biggest things that goes into asking somebody to be in a bridal party is the expense. So what is the pro of having a larger bridal party as opposed to a smaller bridal party when it comes to the expense of the actual wedding?
So every wedding's different. Every situation's different. Maybe you don't have a mom or a mother-in-law throwing you your bridal shower, so your bridal party would be the one doing it. If you have a large bridal party, the pro of that with, planning, all the pre-wedding festivities would be that, they get to split the the cost. It's not, so costly for just 3 or 4 girls. You could split it amongst 7 or more.
Right. And I think that is a good thing because sometimes you have people in the bridal party who might be younger and
Right.
really can't foot the bill for a bachelorette party or bachelor party, any sort of that thing, because they might not be working, they might be college students. So having that larger bridal party could kind of pick up some of that loose end.
Right. I know, like for me, a lot of my family on my father's side, I was young when they got married. So most of the weddings happened when I was under the age of 16. So, for the dress and, the bridal shower.
Right, your parents are paying for it.
They paid for it. I wasn't working or anything.
And I think we've run into that too, where the maid of honor or anybody in charge, the best man, might take control and say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to split up expenses. Smaller bridal parties, it's going to cost a little more. Bigger bridal parties, it'll cost you a little less, which is always a good thing.
Right.
Because it is costly being a bridal party.
It is. It is expensive. You got to, hair and makeup, jewelry, accessories, dress, alteration.
We're going to cover all that on another episode. But
Right.
Moving on, let's talk about some of the cons. I mean, I think we've talked about some of them, but what is the number one, let's say?
The biggest thing that I see, and it is unfortunate, but probably just like the drama and the conflict of having different personalities coming together, and it can lead to some issues.
Because I mean, let's face it, there's always going to be one or two in a larger bridal party who may have had a wedding or been in multiple weddings, and this is how it was done here, this is how I did it, and this is how you should do it.
Prior to working as a wedding planner, I worked as a bridal consultant. I was a sales manager for 2 large bridal salons in New Jersey, and I worked with tons of bridal parties. And you always have one who wants to take charge, one who thinks they're a wedding planner, one who wants to kind of dictate to every person, what they should and shouldn't be wearing or doing. I think this kind of can go for the guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Too.
Yeah. I feel like there's always somebody in the group that wants to take charge and has the best intentions, but maybe too forceful and may not actually take into consideration the couple's wishes as far as what they want to do or how things should be run. That could be an issue with a larger party. With a smaller party, you don't have so many personalities to deal with. And, usually everybody gets along, and that's the hope, that everybody kind of knows each other and everything works out well.
Right. I feel like if you keep it a little bit more intimate, you have more of the possibility of people knowing each other versus a bunch of different people from different parts of your life coming together for the first time, and everyone kind of thinks they know you best.
Right, exactly. Family member knows you best, your best friend knows you best. And I think that's a good segue into our next con is, how do you keep that many people in a large bridal party organized?
You don't.
Is it possible is what I was going to ask.
You don't keep them organized. Like I said in a previous podcast about when we were talking about a day of coordinator and the responsibilities, one of them is, creating the day of timeline. And we start from when the bride wakes up, when the groom wakes up with hair and makeup, and when groom prep starts, and when everyone has to be there for photos. I can tell you from every wedding that I did, there's always one that is not there, is not ready. This is weddings I plan and weddings that I've personally have been in.
Oh, absolutely. How many times are we running around for photos and it's cocktail hour and there's 3 or 4 people from the bridal party walking around cocktail hour. They're supposed to be out front taking photos, even after we told everybody, hey, make sure you're here for photos.
Yes, it doesn't matter that they're all in the same color. When you're trying to find a group of 7 people in a group of 150 to 200, it's not exactly easy.
No, but it's part of our job and we like doing
Right.
it. We go, we find them, we make sure where they are. They're supposed to be
Right.
where they are.
Sometimes you have to tell them 3 or 4 times,
Hey.
but you get them.
But
You get them where they
I
need
think that's
to
one of
be.
the difficult things. With a smaller bridal party, when we've had this happen, they're a little more easier to wrangle up and to keep in one location when we need to do those things like photos or entrances and stuff like that.
Right. And touching upon photos a little bit, to get all of those people photographed in a short matter of time, whether it's pre-ceremony or after the ceremony, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is, because a lot of the times our couples ask us to take photos either prior to everything beginning the ceremony, or we have that small window in between for where cocktail hour is to get all those photos done. And having a smaller bridal party allows us to kind of keep everybody together after the ceremony, knock out the pictures, and then you can go enjoy cocktail hour.
Right. It gets done with the larger parties, but it does make things a lot more difficult.
And I think in that aspect too, you have to think about the couple who's getting married and that they want to go and enjoy cocktail hour too. So if the bridal party's running around and we have to wrangle them up, that takes a little longer because they have to take their own shots. But I think there's a lot of good to each. There's no right or wrong. It's what you want to do.
Right. It's just some things to consider if you are in the middle of deciding who to ask to be in your bridal party. We're going to touch more on bridal parties in our next podcast about etiquette from the bride and groom towards their bridal party and etiquette for the bridal party towards the bride and groom.
And I think that's gonna be definitely gonna be our next episode. I think that's gonna wrap us up here. Like we said, there's pros and cons to both large and small bridal parties. Whichever one you feel is good for you, go for it. We have a wedding coming up with 14 on either side, which is gonna be awesome. I love challenges. It's gonna be a great one. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please remember, go check us out on YouTube. Our Instagram is at Donna Weddings. Find us on Facebook, Donna Weddings and Events. Feel free to email us if you have anything that you would like to hear us talk about. If you have any questions, any concerns, we'll be happy to answer them. Shoot us an email. Check us out on our website, belladonnaweddings.com. For me, I'm Thomas.
I'm Alana.
And we will see you all next week.